Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to this week's Market Huddle. I'm Joe Lucey. Most of you already know that, of course. And, just because 2020 is behind us doesn't mean that all the troubles are behind us. There's some things that I think we should all be having on our radar, especially when it comes to our retirement planning. And really, that's kind of the focus of this week's huddle. I want to talk about 5 areas that we can be planning around the new year, and some thoughts that maybe you want to be thinking about working with your advisor through. If you are an existing client, of course, at the end, everybody's going to be offered an opportunity to schedule a 15-minute visit or Zoom meeting, whatever works for you. If you are not a client or if you have questions, maybe you're referred to this presentation by one of our other clients, feel free to take advantage of that as well. We want to make sure that we're a resource for everybody as we get into the new year and as we work through your retirement. So with that said, this week's Market Huddle, again, 2021, the new year in your retirement plan. What should you be thinking about? There's 5 areas that I kind of came across as we were preparing for this. And I hope that everybody did have a good New Year's. So here's the disclaimer that we use. Obviously, keep in mind, I do not I'm not a CPA, I'm not a certified public accountant. We do a lot of tax planning here, but if we start talking about taxes, which we will here today, keep in mind that a lot of what I'm talking about is kind of forward-looking. It's no guarantee. Also, we aren't really in a position that we can interpret tax law. So keep in mind, I'm not, don't work with the federal government. If we talk about Social Security in any of these presentations, I'm not representing the Social Security Administration and what have you. So I'm also not an attorney. So anyways, that's what this disclaimer kind of brings down in a few paragraphs here, and it's required because my attorneys say that we need to put this up here every single time we do this. So there you go. What's the number one thing we should be doing right now? A lot of times when we sit down with families, we talk about we talk a lot about, what's important to you. What are you trying to accomplish? When you're working with secured retirement, it's more important to me to make sure that my advisors, that we are talking about what it is you're trying to accomplish, not necessarily the resources that you may have when we first visit. If we know multiple different ways of what you're trying to accomplish, we can generally come up with several different plans of action on how we can help you accomplish that. Keep in mind, there's no such thing as a perfect plan, but it all does start with planning. This time of year, they say that 8%, not 18, 8. Only 8% of all people achieve their New Year's goals, yet about 80% fail to keep their New Year's resolutions longer than 30 days. Now, we want to make sure that we are putting together plans. One thing I found from doing this for 26 years now is that plans that are documented, plans that are put in place, tend to be more likely to be achieved than those that are just kind of gone about kind of willy-nilly. So they say that roughly 55% of New Year's resolutions are related to either health, such as exercising more, eating healthier, or getting their finances in order. So up to more than half of the families out there are making goals either that are health or diet related or around their finances. We want to be a resource for families, especially those of you that are in and nearing retirement. Studies after studies tell us that almost 3/4, 74% of families say that their number one fear as a renter into retirement is actually running out of money, running out of paychecks sometime in their retirement years. Yet when other studies are done, 70% of all families have no documented plan around how to take their money back, how to make it last a lifetime, how to make it tax efficient. A lot of what we offer here at Secured Retirement Financial. So at the end of the presentation, if you would like to discuss that, again, if you're an existing client or maybe just joining us for the first time, feel free. We want to be a resource. We want to be here as needed. And maybe it's just a quick little check-in with the Zoom meeting with your advisor, or maybe it's something that we're going to want to spend a little bit more time going through. If you don't have a plan in place for income, let's spend that time. Let's get that put together so that we can make 2021 the best year ever. In fact, I've seen so much out there about all the negative things about good riddance for 2020. I started thinking about my own personal situation, and let's face it, 2020 wasn't fun for anybody. But, a lot of great things happened in our family. We were able to attend some wonderful weddings and some birthdays. Some of it was a little bit more virtual. I think we all kind of started to understand maybe the importance of family a little bit more, or the absence, and how that is maybe what's really important to us. Personally, my wife had some health issues. We're happy to announce that in 2020 she became cancer-free, which is excellent news, obviously. But as we start thinking about our goals, let's start to think about what's really important to us. It's usually not a balance sheet item. It's usually what we're trying to accomplish, and that's where your financial planning should start. What do I want to accomplish? And then let's put together a plan. Let's document the plan. Let's make sure that you're in good shape. And at the end of today's visit here to today's Market Huddle, if you want to spend some time on that, let's spend some time. Number 2, let's start to plan around taxes. Conventional wisdom claims that you're going to have lower taxes when you retire than when you put your money into your retirement accounts. Now, I say it a lot of times on Secure Retirement Radio and a radio program. I think this is the number one lie. I think the number one lie we were all told is that when we started setting aside money into our retirement accounts, we'd put it in at a higher tax rate, and we would find ourselves taking it out at a lower tax rate when we retired. Yet 10,000 boomers, that's how many people are retiring each and every day, they tell us. 10,000 boomers are waking up in retirement finding out that it's not necessarily the case. Many, many, many retirees are finding themselves in higher tax brackets than where they were. One of the things I think is going to come out of 2020 here is I think that this has created a tremendous opportunity. I think that in 2026, January 1st, because that's when we know the tax rates are going to expire, or very highly likelihood it's going to take an act of Congress to keep them where they are at. I think we're going to be looking back and saying, that 2020 coronavirus thing that was going on and everything that was going on that didn't seem like a good opportunity in 2020 ended up actually being a tremendous opportunity. A lot of times adversity creates opportunity. In fact, maybe you already know this, but the Chinese word for opportunity represents both risk or trouble and opportunity. It's the same word. So I think that we are in a tremendous position here around taxes. Now, we talked about how the tax code that was passed here, the Trump tax plan, the Taxpayers Relief Act that was passed here in 2018 became in effect 2018 tax returns. We know that when that was written that was set to mature or expire here December 31st of 2025. We used to always say prior to 2020 that we thought it was very likely taxes would go higher. When I start looking at the tea leaves now, I think that because of the pandemic, because we're running larger deficits than we ever have, going all the way back past World War II, the government is spending, $2 trillion of stimulus here at the beginning of this, quantitative easing, which has been going crazy. That's why interest rates are so low. Another $900 billion pandemic relief bill that was passed here just a couple weeks ago. In fact, I know some families have received $600 stimulus checks from that. Because of all this, I don't think it's very likely that we are going to not see taxes going higher. And unfortunately, if you're a boomer, they're going to go higher just at a point that you're getting ready to retire. Because at some point here, us as Americans have to pay back the government. It's not just the federal government, it's the state of Minnesota government. It's maybe some of your local taxes, property taxes. Taxes are going to go higher. And, even some of these hidden taxes that we talk around, like with Medicare premiums that go up. There's never been a better time to really get our arms around our taxes. That's why each and every family we work with gets that look forward tax analysis. We want to make sure that we are making plans around taxes in your retirement years, documenting these as we talked about in that first making sure we have a plan in place that's based on your goals, and then bringing in taxes, because I think that that's one of the biggest areas that we can impact families in retirement or through their retirement is by bringing in some tax savvy strategies. Again, if you're a current client and like to visit on your tax plan or what we should be doing and we haven't done so, let's make sure we schedule some time. That's our value that we bring to you. And if you'd like to visit with us, maybe you don't know what you have for a tax plan, let's schedule some time. We can either schedule 15 minutes just to kind of catch up on the phone, or we can schedule a full 1 hour session to kind of review things. Everything starts with what we call our tax smart retirement plan, and that process always includes a deep dive into your goals and what you're trying to accomplish and areas that we try to focus on to help you with taxes. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is it's good time here as we get into the first of the year. Let's start to reassess our risk. Risk tolerance really boils down to how much you're willing to lose. Somebody with a very high risk tolerance usually is going to invest a little bit more aggressively. Somebody with a very low risk tolerance may try to be a little bit more conservative, leave it more money in cash, maybe use indexing options. There's a lot of different things we can do here, but just your risk tolerance by itself is only one of 3 risks that you should be addressing in your retirement planning. Risk tolerance is this emotional risk. It's when all of a sudden you start acting in a way that you may even know at the time it doesn't make sense. A lot of times we know that from economics, when things go lower, you should be buying. But when it comes to our investments, a day like today, the Dow is down over 550 points as we speak. A lot of times people get a little bit more nervous. Now, we haven't had any phone calls today, but I'll tell you, we get another couple days of 500 points down, the phones will start to ring because of that risk tolerance. We also want to keep in mind that there's what's called risk required, because of inflation. We haven't seen that in a good decade at real inflation. We've seen inflation a little bit in certain areas, but I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more inflation. We need to start bringing that risk required, make sure that we are getting the kind of returns that are going to keep our money protected from inflation. But on the other hand, there's also risk capacity. It's a numerical number. It's different than risk tolerance. How much money could you lose and still be able to retire on your game plan? We can help you, show you that statistically, mathematically, historically. We test your portfolio so that you know whether or not you're violating risk capacity. You know whether or not you're taking on the right amount of risk, at least the risk minimum, and then we can start to address areas around risk tolerance with you. So this is a great time. We're January 4th here. A lot of us have already scheduled our goals for 2021. Maybe you, like me, had a goal to eat a little bit better and found a way to convince yourself that you could put that off until today. So now I got to eat healthy after kind of binging and not being so great over the weekend. But now's a great time. We're at the beginning of the year. It's a good time to reset. We know that. Let's make sure we stick to some goals, and let's make sure that we're one of those 8% that accomplish the goals. And let us be assistance to you here at Secured Retirement. Let's move on to number 4. That's interest rates. I don't know if you've paid any attention lately, but anybody that has gone down to the bank and attempted to take out a CD knows that CD rates, a 1-year CD is paying about 0.5% right now. It's not even a full 1%. Inflation's not going to keep up with 0.5%. Now, on the other side of this, low interest rates have created some opportunities. Mortgage rate, 15-year mortgage rates right now, about 2.3%-ish. 30 years are 2.8, 2.9%. This is creates some planning opportunities. Questions like, should I refinance? Should I be paying off my house if you still have a mortgage? I personally think that a 2.8% mortgage is maybe even a hedge against inflation. You're not going to be able to get money and only have to pay 2.8 or 2.9% on it in 10 years. So maybe actually carrying a mortgage now starts to make more sense when 5 or 10 years ago, it wouldn't have made as much sense. Money market rates are paying nothing. 5-year CDs are paying less than 1%. So, does it make sense to hold on to as much cash? Do we need to look for better ways to get better rates of return? The other thing is that, Ronald Reagan used to call inflation the silent killer. And if you're only getting 0.5% on your safe money, your CDs, that silent killer, that inflation is going to eat that up, assuming that we go back to traditional inflation rates. In fact, I think we could actually start seeing a little bit more accelerated inflation. The Federal Reserve has even told us that they're going to allow a little bit higher inflation than in the past. So we got to make sure that we are reducing or we're looking at the impact of interest rates on our portfolio. They always told us when I took my certified financial planning designation, when I went through that, they always talked about the three-legged stool of retirement. One leg of the stool was your Social Security benefits. Another leg might have been your pensions. And then the third leg was interest payments on savings. Well, here we are in a place where many families no longer have pensions. We have interest rates that are paying less than 1%, and very few families that are, at least that we work with here, really are comfortable only living on Social Security. It creates some additional challenges. You may have to take a little bit more risk in a portfolio at a time you actually might be looking at trying to reduce risk. This is a good planning area. Let's make sure that if you haven't had this discussion with our advisors here in the last 60 days or so, let's have another discussion. If you're not having this discussion where you currently receive financial planning, use this as a resource. We'd love to kind of share with you a little bit more about how we do things here differently at Secured Retirement Financial. Okay, one more, number 5. 5 things that we should be looking at in 2021. We got 2020 behind us. It doesn't mean all of our troubles have gone away. Let's start to do things now so that we can make 2021 the best year we can. And I guess I should have maybe phrased this a little bit more positively. We got to come back to the required minimum distributions. You're right, or maybe you're not. Maybe didn't even ask the question. But did you know that because last year they deferred all required minimum distributions, that all expired here? The CARES Act has expired as of December 31st. So all the things we could do because of the CARES Act, taking money out of an IRA up to $100,000 and extending the payments on that for 3 years, not having to take out required distributions. A lot of the other things, the charitable things that could have been done around the CARES Act, they've all expired. Now we got to go back to the Secure Act that was passed in December 20th, actually, of 2019, back at a point when this whole coronavirus thing wasn't even it wasn't even a vision. Nobody was thinking about this. So what kind of things were passed here in the Secure Act that now are the law of the land? Well, number one, they've eliminated the age 70 and a half distribution for IRA contributions. That actually worked last year too. You can now, if you have wages, you have to be self-employed or actually have a paycheck, right? Pensions don't count. Social Security doesn't count. It has to be wages from an employer or self-employed. You can still make, or you can make contributions to a traditional IRA even past 70 and a half. This was a major change that was passed in the Secure Act that was passed back all the way back on December 20th, a little over a year ago, that all of a sudden when coronavirus hit, a lot of this stuff kind of fell aside. What else? Well, they raised the required minimum distribution age to 72. Now, that meant that a lot of families went into 2020 thinking that maybe they were going to get a little reprieve, but now it's caught up to us because now anybody that was going to have a year off is going to probably hit this year. So if you are 72, anytime this calendar year, 2021 or older, you need to start looking at required distributions. Let us show you how to calculate those. Let us show you how to make sure that you don't end up paying a tremendous penalty on these. 50% is the penalty for not taking the right amount out. So let's go through that with you. If you are 72, you actually have a couple months. You can wait till next March, but don't do that because you'll have to take it twice in 2022. So let us show you how to do that. I shouldn't say don't do that. There are some limited situations that we do recommend people wait and take 2 RMDs in a year. So maybe that's another good reason to visit with us so we can kind of review that with you and see if it makes sense for you. A couple other things that passed in the Secure Act I wanted to make sure we talked about. They're now going to be promoting indexing and annuity payments in 401k. So all of a sudden, years and years and years, everybody said, income doesn't matter. It's all about wealth accumulation. Now, all of a sudden, the Secure Act says, well, maybe we should take a look at generational tools that can generate more income, like an annuity. And the big one is, well, it doesn't hurt you or your spouse in most cases, but the elimination of that stretch IRA. We used to be able to pass on our IRAs, our retirement accounts, all that money that was deferred from our taxes, pass it on to the kids, and now let the kids, it didn't have to be children, it could be neighbors or sisters or brothers, a lot of different situations there. But we used to be able to pass it on, and then they could stretch out the payments. They could take it out over their life expectancy, thereby eliminating a lot of the upfront taxes. That's gone. Now it's a 10-year payout. Think about this. You have $1 million. All of a sudden, you're passing it on to your children. They have to take it out all over a 10-year period of time. There is no more required distribution. In fact, the way they're doing this is you don't have to even touch the money for 10 years. Let the $1 million continue to grow. Let it turn into $2 million, and then you're socked with all of it all up front. Creates another planning opportunity. If you have IRAs, you think you're going to be leaving to your beneficiaries, let's look at this and see how it fits into your plan. So quick recap. We talked about 5 different areas I think that makes some sense for us to start planning in 2021. First of all, let's make sure we start with a plan. Let's put a plan together. It should be based on your goals, not returns first. It should be about what you're trying to accomplish. 2, taxes more than likely are going to go higher. In fact, more certain that they are now after this last $900 billion stimulus package that just got passed. So start to make sure you're making 2021 a year that you're focusing on tax planning. Reassess your risk. We're starting to see, I guess that the timing of this, all of a sudden the market's down 500 or so today. That's just a coincidence. We got a lot of things going on over the last 30 days that could rattle the markets. There's changes in legislation that could happen over the next quarter. Now's a great time to start looking at the amount of risk you're taking and make sure it's appropriate. Figuring out how to make low interest rates work for you. Again, the required minimum distributions are back. We'll see what the IRS does. I suppose they could always pass it, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to let this one stick. Markets have recovered, and telling everybody they don't have it, they can take a holiday from required distributions, I don't think is necessarily something that I think they're going to get a lot of leverage on. So therefore, I think that it's more than likely they're going to let those stick this year, and you will be forced to take out an RMD if you were going to be 72 anytime in 2021 or older. Here is the, oh boy, I'm trying to, there we go. I just put the offer out there. So if you would like to schedule some time with us, schedule a analysis with somebody on the team here. Let's sit down. Let's make 2021 an excellent year. With that said, cheers to everybody. Let's. I think that 2021 is going to turn out, when we look back, it's going to be it's a tremendous opportunities have been created here, and I'm very optimistic about what 2021 can bring. I wish all the best to you and your families, and again, use this as a resource as we get ready, and there's no better time than the next couple weeks to set ourselves up for a fantastic 2021. With that said, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Monday and have a fabulous 2021.